Yes, you're seeing this correctly. There's another new Garmin. They've been really busy lately. Let's take a look at the Instinct 2. The original Garmin Instinct was a well-received watch because it was affordable and it had a lot of great features for hikers and trail runners, climbers, people who get off the beaten path and didn't want all of the fluff of a Garmin Fenix or even a Forerunner model and wanted something just more simple and more basic. And now, just another year later, we have the Instinct 2, which adds so much more to the original Instinct and the Instinct Solar, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today because they really packed a lot into this one. In this video, let's just focus on the new things that come to the Instinct 2 and why it's an upgrade from the Instinct 1 and Solar models. One quick note before we move on, every time I mention the Instinct 1 in this video, I'm actually referring to the Instinct Solar, not the original Instinct 1, so just keep that in mind as we go through this video. First things first, let's talk about the options when it comes to purchasing one of these watches because there's a lot to choose from. There's actually 19 different versions of the Instinct 2 to choose from, so yeah, there's a lot. The first thing to note is there's actually two sizes available on the Instinct 2. There's the Instinct 2, that's 45 millimeters, and that's the one I have here, and then there's the Instinct 2S, which is a smaller version, and that comes in at 40 millimeters, which is great for smaller wrists. On top of that, there's a whole bunch of different colors this year to choose from. There's like neon green versions and blue versions and camo versions. There's a lot going on here, so you'll have to check out Garmin's website to see all of the different available options. And then on top of all those different color options, you've got a couple of versions unique to different activities. So there's a surf version this year, and there's also a tactical version this year, and those come with a few unique features and a different price point. And speaking of pricing, it's equally as confusing. So the base model, the non-solar Instinct 2 and 2S starts at $349. If you upgrade to the solar model, it comes in at $449. On top of that, you've got the surf and tactical versions of the watch that come in at $399, and then you've got the surf solar and tactical solar versions, and those come in at $499. So $500 for the most expensive one, and then $349 to get into the Instinct 2. A wide range of pricing there. Okay, so what's new with the Instinct 2? First of all is the design. So the design of the Instinct 2, which I have on the right side of the screen, and the original Instinct on the left side of the screen, you can see that the bezel is a little bit different now. It's a little bit more contoured, and I think it looks a little bit more modern now, where the original version has more of a utilitarian look. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so it's up to you whether or not you like this change. I personally think it's a good looking watch. Even though the design changed a little bit, the sizing is basically identical to the original Instinct. Both of these are 45 millimeters, and they're about the same thickness. There is one redesign that is functional to the Instinct 2 that a lot of people complained about on the Instinct 1. It's going to be the location of the barometer port. So on the original Instinct, you can see here that the barometer port was on the back of the watch. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that's where it is. And the problem with the location of the barometer being here is that if you get super sweaty or you get gunk on your wrist or something like that, this port can actually get jammed up, and that ultimately leads to inaccurate readings from the barometer. Now, if we take a look at the Instinct 2, you can see that the barometer port has been moved to the side of the watch right between the two buttons. I've only had the watch for a few days, so I'm not going to give you my impressions on the accuracy so far, but that design change should result in better accuracy. Another upgrade to the Instinct 2 is a little bit nuanced because it's really hard to notice, but there's actually increased resolution on the display. Keep in mind, this is the same type of display, so it's a monochrome, black and white transflective display, and it's functional in direct sunlight, but it's not vibrant or anything like that like an Apple Watch would be. This increased resolution on the display means that text can look a little bit smoother, but it also means that text can be a little bit smaller. So if you're scrolling through your menus and things like that, the smaller text is a little bit easier to read because it's not quite as pixelated as it was on the Instinct 1. Quick interruption, if you're finding this video helpful or fun or anything, make sure you hit the subscribe and thumbs up button down below because that really helps me out. Also, check out the links in the description if you're planning on picking one of these watches up, because that helps me out too. Okay, back to the video. Now, if we flip both of these watches over, you can see that the Instinct 2 also got Garmin's new Elevate 4.0 heart rate sensor, and in my testing so far, it's way more accurate than these older heart rate sensors like on the Instinct 1 and Solar version. And again, I've only had the Instinct 2 for a few days, but I have managed to go for a few runs with it, and the heart rate data from those runs does look a lot more accurate than it did on the Instinct 1 and Instinct Solar. This heart rate sensor isn't totally new on the Instinct 2. It's available on the Fenix 7, the Epix, the 945 LTE, activity, and on all of those watches, it gets pretty good results. Another big upgrade to the Instinct 2 is that it's actually compatible with Connect IQ this time around, whereas the original Instinct was not. That means you can go on your phone and download additional watch faces and data fields and widgets and apps. Keep in mind, this is a new development for Connect IQ, so developers will need to make their apps compatible with the Instinct 2, and on launch day, I think things like Starbucks and WikiLoc will be available, but more will definitely come down the road. And on top of that Connect IQ support, we now have Garmin Pay support on the Instinct 2. Again, wasn't available on the Instinct 1, and that's a welcome sight. That means you can pay for things if your bank supports it using the watch. In the NFC chip inside, you just tap it on the card reader and you're ready to go. Another nice feature about the Instinct 2 is that much like the Fenix 7 and Epix Gen 2, you can set all of the settings of the watch right from your Garmin Connect app on your smartphone. So instead of diving through the menus of your watch, you can just do it right from your phone and sync it over to the watch in real time. And this is great because you can control literally everything from backlight brightness to the data fields in your particular activities. In terms of the user interface, comparing the Instinct 1 to the 2, the major upgrade here is that there's now widget glances available on the Instinct 2, and that's thanks to that higher resolution display. So instead of full page widgets like on the Instinct 1, you can see here on the Instinct 2, we now have truncated views that just give you a little bit more information at a glance. And if we dive into the menu system here, we see a few new features. For instance, we have safety now available on the Instinct 2. So if we dive in here, you can see that we have incident detection, assistance, and emergency contacts. And incident detection will actually pick up if you fall off your bike or you trip while you're out on a trail run, anything like that. It'll actually contact your friends or family that you set up in Garmin Connect. When it comes to general wellness tracking on the Instinct 2, it's very similar to the Instinct 1. Picks up your daily step count, your stairs climbed, active calories burned, things like that, but it takes it one step further when it comes to sleep. Now, the original Instinct did track sleep, but it didn't have this new widget that's available on the Instinct 2. This actually lets you view your previous night's sleep on the watch itself without having to dive into Garmin Connect or even look at your phone. And with this comes a whole new algorithm for sleep tracking that has proven to be more accurate than the older versions like on the Instinct 1. And as you can see on the widget, you can see how long my sleep duration was, my sleep score, quality of sleep, and if I scroll down, I get even more information about my previous night's sleep. And on the topic of wellness tracking, the Instinct 2 now features Garmin's Health Snapshot activity that actually takes a measure of all of your vitals for that moment and stores them in Garmin Connect, and you can actually show them to your doctor. This is available on some of Garmin's other devices like the Venu 2 and the Fenix, but it's good to see on the Instinct 2 now. Now let's talk about training tools on the Instinct 2 because this is a huge upgrade compared to the Instinct 1. This time around, we've got Garmin's excellent estimated VO2 max, we've got the graphical race predictor that was available on the Garmin Fenix 7 and Epix. We've got training status and training load. We've got recovery advisor, and we have daily suggested workouts, just like the Fenix and Forerunner models. This is a huge upgrade in my opinion, and I feel like it's going to sell a lot more units because a lot of people who are looking at this watch ended up going with a Forerunner or something like that because they wanted those advanced training tools, and now they're available on Instinct 2. Okay, let's talk battery life on the Instinct 2 because this topic is pretty interesting. If you look at general specs like without solar involved, it's actually pretty similar to the original Instinct 1. You're looking at about 4 weeks or 28 days as a smartwatch, just general daily use, or up to 30 hours in GPS mode. However, if we talk solar on the Instinct 2, it's a whole different story. They beefed up the efficiency of the solar panel on the front of the watch, so now in smartwatch mode, you get infinite battery life. That's right, infinite battery life. So if you get up to 3 hours of direct sunlight per day on the watch, on the solar panel, you never have to charge your watch. Forever. And that's super cool because on the original Instinct, you could get infinite battery life, but you had to have it in battery saver mode, which really dumbed it down. It just basically turned it into a watch. But on the Instinct 2, you get infinite battery life with sunlight, and it's a real smartwatch. You can read your text messages on it, you can control your music on it. On top of that, if you get up to 3 hours of direct sunlight during your GPS activity, you can actually get up to 48 hours of GPS activity use on the Instinct 2. And again, that's a big upgrade compared to the Instinct 1. And it's really interesting reading these specs because by design, they look very similar, like the solar panel is the same basically compared from the Instinct 1 and 2. However, the efficiency is way higher, so they must have a new kind of technology or something in this new solar panel. The Instinct 2 is also compatible with up to 40 different activity profiles, from virtual running, which has the ability to broadcast your heart rate to other devices for Zwift and things like that. You've got high-intensity interval training, bouldering, backcountry skiing, multi-sport mode with triathlon support, e-bike, mountain bike, and cyclocross, which all support grit and flow this time around. This updated activity profile list just is great to see because the original Instinct was a little bit limited in this department. Okay, let's talk GPS accuracy on the Instinct 2. Honestly, it's very similar to the Instinct 1. Unlike the new Garmin Fenix 7 and Epix, the Instinct did not receive that multi-frequency GPS mode, so I think it's actually the same GPS chip and antenna design they used on the Instinct 1, and in terms of overall accuracy, it's pretty good. I've been on several runs wearing the Instinct 1, the Instinct 2, my Garmin Fenix 7, and my Epix, and all compared, I'd say the GPS accuracy from the Instinct 2 is acceptable, and it's right in line with what we were seeing from the Instinct 1. That's to say it's not absolutely perfect, but it's totally acceptable, and if you weren't comparing them side by side with dual frequency devices, you probably wouldn't complain about it. Keep in mind, I've only had the Instinct 2 for a few days, so I will continue to test it, but so far it's looking pretty good. And that's kind of the end of the new feature list of the Instinct 2 compared to the Instinct 1. Other than that, these two watches are basically the same. The same 5-button layout, user interface, similar health and wellness tracking with body battery, and the same breadcrumb navigation and mapping features, just like the original Instinct is on the Instinct 2. Now let's talk about the Instinct 1 for a second, because I know what you're thinking. If you just bought an Instinct 1 and you see all these new features on the Instinct 2, you're probably a little upset, and I would be too. I asked Garmin if any of these new features would be ported over to the original in a firmware update, and they didn't really have a clear answer for me. I'm hopeful that some of the small tweaks like the new widget glances come over, but I'm not really sure yet, so only time will tell. Okay, final thoughts on the Instinct 2. Who is this watch for? I think this is a huge upgrade to the Instinct 1. They took a really awesome watch and made it even more awesomer. By giving the Instinct 2 all those advanced training tools, the updated sleep tracker, Connect IQ access, and little tweaks like the widget glances, make it feel a lot more modern and make it fit into the Garmin lineup a little bit better, I think. And I think now the Instinct 2 becomes a really solid option to people who are in the market for something like a Garmin Fenix but didn't want to shell out $1,000. You get most of those features in a rugged watch now on the Instinct 2 for less than half the price. The Instinct 2 certainly isn't a cheap watch, but I think you are getting your money's worth here, and I think it's going to be a great option for people who are trail runners, hikers, climbers, and now even road runners or cyclists can take advantage of the advanced training tools on board the Instinct 2 as well. So yeah, I'm excited about this watch, and I'm really interested in that new neon green color option because that's right up my alley. And now I want to hear from you. Are you excited about the Instinct 2? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we've come to the end of this video, and if you found this video helpful or fun or anything, I would appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. And if you're interested in picking up an Instinct 2, make sure you check out the links down below because those do help support my channel, and I really appreciate that. That's all I've got for this one. I hope you liked it. I hope you like the Instinct 2 because I think it's pretty cool. That's it. Okay. Bye.